Hi, this is week 2 of our class. I hope you had fun during week 1. And what we will cover during week 2 is the develop module in depth. What I did here is go ahead and create a regular collection, obviously under collections by clicking on this plus icon and creating a regular collection. And I called that collection week 2. I placed inside 9 pictures that are actually provided for you, and you can actually do these exercises with me. Now let me start with the first picture. I'm going to select this picture of the girl on the coffee beans, and I will click on the develop module to open it there. I realize that there's a problem with this picture. This picture happens to have colorcast, and the colorcast here is orange. Now what colorcast is, it's basically the result of the color temperature of light on the scene at the time the photo was shot. Colorcast can be orange, blue, green, any color, depending on the different pictures that could have colorcast. Now, to get rid of the colorcast because we don't want it, we can go ahead and open the basic panel right here on the right side. And where it says treatment, right under that, there's this tool called the white balance selector. If I go ahead and click on that, it will allow me to see if my image has colorcast in case I have doubts. By looking at this picture, I'm sure that it does have colorcast, but just let me make sure by hovering over a neutral area. A neutral area is usually grays or whites, so perhaps this little whitish area or this very white area of the nail. So what I need to do is just hover over that area and then look at the histogram. If you look at the histogram while I'm hovering over the white part of the nail, you can see that the RGB values right here, okay, the RGB values are not equal. 95.5 for red, 93.4 for green, and 89.5 for blue. They're not equal. They should be almost equal. If RGB have almost equal values, then there is no colorcast. But when you see such a big difference, especially between the red, green, and the blue, because the blue is 89.5, that's quite different from the first two, then there is colorcast. So all you need to do is using the white balance selector tool, which I have right here, just click on a white or a gray area. So right now I'm going to click on the nail, and the minute I do that, you see the values of the RGB in the histogram on the right change and become almost equal. So now red is 95.5, green is 95.8, and blue is 95.7. So they're almost equal. There's a difference of 0.1, 0.2, that's nothing. Which means we got rid of the colorcast. We're good now. Our image doesn't have orange colorcast anymore. If you want, you can also keep clicking until you get to the best result that you find using your judgment good. So I believe this is good for me. What I want to do is basically, actually not really, maybe let me choose, this is a bit close, yes, this is much better. So the one that I liked earlier was a bit bluish, it had a bluish tone, so I changed my mind and I think this is much better. And again, look at RGB, they have almost equal values. Now when you're done, when you're convinced with the 2 steps that you've made, remember that the first step is getting rid of the colorcast by clicking on a neutral area, and the second step is basically to keep clicking until you reach, obviously remember to keep clicking on a white area, not on a random area, until you reach the desired result of the picture. Once you're done, hit done, and that will be your final result. Now remember that all your history steps are being preserved, okay? So nothing is gone. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is add some temperature to this picture, just slightly, not too much, and then perhaps some tint. and that's enough. So I just added some temperature and some tint and also just some contrast because it's hazy and it's a nice hazy effect, but I'd like to give it just some contrast, like 11 is a good value. And now to see the difference between where we were and where we currently are, so the before and after of our work, we can go ahead and click on the backslash key on our keyboard. So the backslash key is what I'm using now. And I can see that I had my picture with colorcast and now the colorcast is gone. So remember, the backslash key on your keyboard is a very useful way of seeing the before and after, and it says before right here when you click on it. Another way to see the before and after of your work is to click on this little icon here, which is basically the cycles between before and after views. Let me go ahead and click on that. And it will separate, the screen for you, if you will, between the before of your image and then the after. But there are better views. I don't think this one is the best. Obviously, remember that you can always hit the tab key to get a big result. So when you're comparing, that's the best thing to do. Just hit the tab key to be able to see in a bigger view. And if I haven't mentioned this before, by the way, you can zoom in, which is what I'm doing now by hitting Command plus. Okay. Now, the other option is if you click on this drop down, you can have the other three options. The one that's currently selected is before, after, left, right. There's another one called before, after, left, right split, which is much better because there's no gray space between the two differences. So the first one is stuck to the next one, and you can see plainly the difference between, the color of the skin here, the orange color cast versus the one without color cast. You can keep clicking on the icon itself or on the drop down. I'm going to click on the icon itself. And this is a top-bottom split, or another way of a split where obviously the images are stuck to one another and we can see more clearly the difference without any gray in between. So this is great, because it allows you to see the changes that you've made, and it's rewarding to see that you've reached good results. You can also look at these little icons here. What this is saying is that, okay, you look at the difference. This is the before, this is the after. If you decide that the after is the better choice, for example, which happens to be at the bottom, you just go ahead and click on the second icon, which is going to push the bottom and make it the whole selected image. So you just go ahead and do that. And then to see the image in a loop view, you just go ahead and click on loop view.